165,000. That's how many applicants are currently on the waiting list for the public housing in New York City. It is one of the most brutal housing markets on earth, defined by soaring rents and desperate shortage of affordable units. But according to a bombshell March 2026 report from the city's Department of Investigation, the largest public housing landlord in the country, the New York City Housing Authority, or NYCHA, is sitting on approximately 6,740 vacant apartments. This number has surged from approximately 2,840 in January 2022. It is a logistical nightmare and a humanitarian failure. How do thousands of homes sit empty in a city starving for them? Today, we're opening up the DOI's official report to look at the bureaucratic rot, the staggering capital costs, and the dangerous consequences of NYCHA's vacancy trap. To understand the scale of the failure, we have to look at the turnaround times. In private development, a standard lease-up phase for a vacant unit takes maybe 30 days. Let's look at what's happening at NYCHA. According to the DOI data, the average duration of a vacancy is now approximately 1 year. Looking at their timeline, turnover ballooned from roughly 50 days in 2019 to peaking at 425 days in August 2024. Why does it take over a year to paint walls and fix floors? The answer is a massive deferred maintenance backlog and strict environmental laws. When a unit is vacated, NYCHA can't just send in a painter. They have to deal with what's inside the walls. The report reveals that the average cost to complete the turnover process is approximately $52,000. But the general renovations, the plastering, the tiling, only accounts for $10,000 of that. $17,000 goes to the lead abatement. A local law passed in 2019 lowered the legal limit for lead paint, which immediately caused an approximately 20% spike in NYCHA apartments testing positive and requiring abatement. And a staggering $25,000 goes to asbestos abatement. According to NYCHA records, approximately 80% of their vacant apartments contain asbestos-containing materials. When you multiply 52,000 by 6,700 units that are vacant, you're looking at hundreds of millions of dollars just to get existing inventory back online, competing for funding against occupied units that are also desperately needing repairs. So you have thousands of apartments sitting empty for a year, waiting on funding and specialized contractors. What happens to them in the meantime? This is where the DOI report gets truly alarming. The DOI found that NYCHA's vacant apartment units are incredibly vulnerable because of how they handle locks. When an apartment becomes vacant, NYCHA doesn't put a unique lock on the door. The report notes that staff often deviate from protocol and use something called a 65 key to secure these units. The 65 key is an authority-wide skeleton key. It doesn't just open vacant apartments, it's a generic lock set used authority-wide for certain rooms within NYCHA buildings, including some utility spaces and management offices. This means every single empty apartment in a massive development is secured by the exact same lock using the exact same key. During one reclamation operation, investigators actually found a 65 key left inside a vacant unit, meaning whoever was in there likely had the run of the place. Combine this lack of security with the fact that NYCHA does not proactively inspect these units while they await renovation, it's a recipe for a disaster. The DOI and NYPD reclaimed 60 apartments through joint efforts, resulting in 81 arrests for trespassing, drug possession, and weapons charges. But behind these bureaucratic statistics are massive community failures. Take the Castle Hill houses. The official DOI report clinically notes that police found a gang member fatally shot inside a vacant unit. But local reporting reveals the victim was a 19-year-old aspiring actor and dancer who had appeared on television. The apartment he was found in had been vacant for 6 months. Neighbors knew squatters were in there. They heard shouting and doors slamming and saw people in ski masks coming and going. But because NYCHA doesn't proactively inspect these empty units, the apartment sat unmonitored until a teenager lost his life. At the Mitchell houses, another unit became a base for illegal activity, leading to an arrest for child neglect, but only after the apartment sat empty and compromised for over 8 months before it was officially investigated.
Public housing was a grand social experiment that has proven itself to be a
Government
failure.
should not be in the business
Now
of
that we
housing
know it
people.
didn't work,
that Mayor
Get a
Mamdani
job,
has held
pay your
large
own way.
public
we
meetings
should
Join
be
the army,
inviting
working toward
residents to
manager
dismantling
complain
McDonald's.
about their private
The
landlord.
public reaction for this
Yet he
crisis
fails
is
to do
fierce,
anything
and it
to
usually
fix
breaks
one
down
housing
into an
issue
ideological
that he
warfare
actually
over whether public housing is a failed experiment or a vital good destroyed by defunding. But when you read the DOI report, the failure isn't just ideological, it's deeply frustratingly bureaucratic. Consider this. The DOI recommended that NYCHA start conducting monthly inspections of these vacant units to prevent trespassing. NYCHA accepted, but they stated it will take them approximately 1 year to implement it, simply because their information technology department needs time to create new auto-generated work orders for these inspections. And what about the absurd key situation? The DOI recommended NYCHA evaluate using alternative lock sets or electronic keys, but look closely at the language they used. The DOI wrote, if NYCHA determines that an alternative lock set is feasible, then NYCHA should update the aforementioned standard procedure accordingly. NYCHA accepts. If feasible. Anyone who has ever dealt with city agencies knows exactly what those two words mean. It's a massive bureaucratic loophole. It gives NYCHA the leeway to drag their feet, claim that buying different locks is too expensive or operationally difficult, and ultimately do nothing at all. When the mechanics of property management fail this profoundly, it doesn't matter what your political ideology is. Public housing was built on a promise of a safe, stable home for everyday New Yorkers. Thousands of apartments gathering dust behind locks that anyone can open is a betrayal of that promise. Thank you for watching. The link to the full DOI report is in the description below so you can read the data for yourself. I'll see you in the next one.